Hello everyone, this is Mr. Brain Junkie here, and today we'll be talking about a science fiction film called Ultraman the Next. Be ready for some spoilers ahead. Somewhere inside a mysterious facility, an emergency lockdown is taking place as a horrific creature is trying to escape from the building. The soldiers try to stop the monster by shooting continuously at the enemy, but the attacks are not effective at all, as the monster easily kills the humans one by one and leaving nothing but destruction behind. Luckily, a scientist named Sarah has created a special poison for the creature, and before the monster is able to escape, she quickly shoots the enemy right in the arm while causing a tremendous pain. However, the monster is eventually able to recover as it stares at the woman with rage, while a human face begins to appear on the creature's shoulder. Sarah is stunned by what she sees in front of her eyes, which gives the monster a chance to jump out from the building while eventually disappearing into the ocean as the woman realized that she just made a terrible mistake. Sometimes later, in a nearby military airfield, a man called Maki has just finished his training with his friend Kirishima, but it turns out that this is their last time flying together. It's quickly revealed that Maki has planned to quit being a pilot because of his son who has been diagnosed with a severe illness, which makes the man decide to spend more time with his family instead. However, before their conversation can finish, the people are quickly interrupted by an alarm, which causes them to rush out immediately from the room. The two quickly gets into their fighter jets before eventually leaving the building and launching towards the sky. It turns out that the military radar has picked up a strange object approaching towards their area, and the two pilots need to investigate immediately about what's actually coming their way. Surprisingly, before they can intercept the object, Kirishima's airplane begins malfunctioning, which forces the man to return to the base immediately while leaving Maki all by himself. Very soon, the pilot manages to arrive in front of the mysterious object, but is shocked by what's in front of his eyes as a giant fireball appears and quickly consumes the entire plane. When the man eventually regains consciousness, he realizes that he's put into a different dimension, which causes him to believe that he has died already. To his surprise, a giant explosion begins to manifest in front of his eyes, which eventually transforms into an enormous humanoid that completely engulfs the man in the process. Sometimes later, a rescue team is trying to find the fallen pilot, but they are only able to locate the remains of the crashed airplane. Fortunately, Maki turns out to have survived the incident after all, as he appears inside a nearby restaurant while eventually falling unconscious towards the ground. The man begins having a nightmare about his encounter with the mystifying entity, which causes him to wake up in shock, but soon realizes that his family is right beside his hospital bed. Their presence is eventually able to calm down the soldier as he embraces his family in happiness. Very soon, the doctors begin examining the man for any signs of injury, but is unable to find anything wrong with his body. The generals inside the military also begins questioning the man about what happened, as they record everything that Maki says, while Sarah is watching the soldier from behind the scene. The man eventually chooses to leave the military alongside his friend so that he can finally spend time with his family like he always wanted, not realizing that Sarah is secretly recording the man's every action. Very soon, Maki has decided to take on a job inside a private company to be a tour guide, but what he didn't expect was to have his first customer to be the female scientist. When they eventually make it onto the sky inside the private aircraft, Sarah points a gun towards the man right away and tells him to pilot away from the public area immediately. Things become even worse when Maki sees a military aircraft right beside his plane, which gives him no other choice but to comply immediately. The man is eventually taken onto a nearby highway as he's forced to land onto the streets, which are completely closed off by the military vehicles. Very soon, Maki is put into a car alongside Sarah and the colonel of the Japanese military, while they tell the man that they need his help to fight off a terrible threat to their country. The people eventually arrive towards a mysterious base and enters inside a secret facility, where Sarah explains that what happened to Maki has already happened a few months ago to another soldier. Just like Maki, they were able to find the other soldier alive after the crash, but he eventually began mutating and turning into a hideous creature in a matter of weeks. This also seems to have changed the man's personality, as he attacked the military by using his newfound powers and eventually managed to escape the building as well. The man hears this and begins having visions from the creature's perspective, which causes Maki to suffer in agony as he shares a telepathic connection with the monster. However, this also makes the people believe that Maki will turn into a monster as well, which is is the reason they have been observing him for so long. Very soon, the soldiers begin taking the man away as they cannot allow Maki to escape just like the previous monster. The man is eventually brought into a large building where the soldiers open up an underground bunker while forcing Maki to go inside immediately before locking him inside the basement. It's quickly revealed that the military is planning to use the man to lure out the monster as they seem to share a telepathic connection and taking the chance to kill them both as well. At the same time, Maki begins sensing that something horrific is approaching his way, which causes him to shout for the people to open the door as the vicious monster starts coming into the military base. Sarah sees this and immediately leaves the laboratory as she goes towards the soldiers who are planning the ambush against the creature and giving them poison bullets to defeat the enemy. Very soon, the monster manages to arrive inside the building as it appears to be only interested in finding Maki and not realizing that it's walking right into a trap. The monster continues moving closer towards the center as it tries to locate the man underground, but eventually sees the female scientist hiding in the second floor. However, everything is already too late as the soldiers open fire all together and shooting hundreds of rounds into the monster, which eventually causes the creature to fall towards the ground. The people sees this and quickly opens up all the lights while noticing that the monster is lying motionlessly, but Sarah soon realized that something is wrong as the creature manages to regain consciousness. The monster soon begins standing up while screaming furiously towards the humans and transforming into something horrifically powerful as it absorbs all the lizards inside the room. The monster quickly begins mutating violently as it grows into a massive kaiju while towering over all the humans at the same time. The soldiers are shocked by what's in front of their eyes while the monster knocks them away like nothing but insects, and the humans are forced to retreat immediately as they are clearly outmatched. Sarah tries to run away from the building as well, but is quickly stopped by the creature's massive tail as the monster seems to have a special interest in the scientist. The woman watches hopelessly as the hideous monster approaches closer towards her, but just before the enemy can make the kill, the bunker's door is blown open while Maki slowly gets out from the basement. The monster turns around immediately as the man shouts for the scientist to run, and the creature quickly attacks the man by using its massive arm. Maki tries desperately to run away, but is eventually hit by the monster's tail that knocks him onto the walls like a flying ragdoll. Surprisingly, the man appears to be unharmed as he slowly gets up onto his feet and begins glowing with power. Very soon, a bright light appears from the man's chest, which causes him to grow tremendously as well, and turning into a massive titan who's known as Ultraman. The monster is furious to see the appearance of a new challenger and rushes immediately to attack the opponent while pushing Ultraman backwards and throwing him onto the ground. Luckily, the giant humanoid manages to get up and begins fighting back immediately while kicking the monster away using tremendous force. However, the kaiju quickly notices Sarah on the ground while trying to attack the innocent human, but Ultraman manages to save the woman just in time while being hit continuously by the enemy. The monster eventually manages to grab onto the silver giant while trying to strangle him with tremendous force, but Ultraman manages to break free by cutting off the creature's tail. Realizing that the enemy is hurt, Ultraman quickly charges forwards and strikes the monster continuously as he throws the creature onto the floor. Before the giant humanoid is about to win the battle, he quickly notices that he's running out of energy, which forces Ultraman onto his knees. The kaiju sees this and immediately attacks the opponent while trying to kill the silver giant in the process. Luckily, the massive humanoid manages to hold back the enemy while charging up all his energy into his arm before throwing a powerful slash onto the kaiju's body. However, the attack has also severely drained Ultraman's powers while leaving him barely able to stand up, but the kaiju has been gravely injured as well and chooses to run away from the buildings immediately. Very soon, Ultraman begins collapsing onto the ground from the previous injuries before reverting back to his human form while Maki lays unconsciously on the floor. The main character eventually begins having another vision inside a secret dimension where he sees the silver giant in front of him and wonders why the entity has came to Earth. Before the man can get any answers, he quickly wakes up inside a secret laboratory where Sarah has been waiting for him to regain consciousness. The woman explains that Maki managed to transform just like the other human host, but instead of becoming a monster, the creature he turned into defended her people and fought against the giant beast. Sarah believes that Maki is the only one with the power to defeat the massive kaiju, as he has the ability to turn into Ultraman, but the main character is only interested in returning returning to his family. The military eventually decides to bring the man to find the giant kaiju, but Maki quickly begins sensing that something is wrong as his son has fallen unconscious from the terrible illness. The man has no choice but to steal a military vehicle while rushing directly towards his family and forcing the woman to chase after him as well. Very soon, the Japanese army begins blocking off the entire city as they try to evacuate as many people as they can, while Maki has eventually made it in front of the metropolis. The man quickly rushed towards the hospital, but is only stopped by a vehicle that's revealed to be driven by Sarah, as she has no intention to let Maki escape. Luckily, before the man is taken away, his friend Kirishima is able to show up just in time to rescue the main character while forcing the woman to let Maki go. The man sees this and quickly rushes into the hospital building, where he's eventually able to find his family outside of the emergency room. The main character apologizes to his wife immediately with tremendous guilt, but the woman is only glad that her husband has finally returned. It's quickly revealed that their son's medical condition has stabilized, while the father promises to never leave the child anymore, but the boy assures the man that he didn't do anything that was wrong. Surprisingly, the child tells the man to return to being a pilot again, as he realizes that this world needs his father more than anything right now. With the encouragement from his family, Maki eventually decides to do the right thing as he returns back to Sarah and plans on defeating the kaiju as well. While the two rushes closer towards their enemy, the woman reveals that the kaiju's human host actually used to be her boyfriend, which explains why she was not able to kill him the first time. Sarah feels extremely guilty for letting the monster escape and swears to stop the giant beast, even if it means sacrificing her own life. Very soon, the two enters into an underground tunnel where they eventually arrive beneath the city's infrastructures and also where the kaiju was last reported to be seen. The two continues venturing deeper into the unknown as they try to find their enemy, but suddenly they quickly notice something appearing from behind the pillar, who turns out to be the kaiju's human host. Surprisingly, the man seems to have lost all his memories and begins begging the people for help, but Sarah refuses to make the same mistake twice as she shoots the enemy continuously without hesitation. However, the woman is quickly captured by an enormous tentacle as the enemy has already turned into his hideous form while trying to squeeze the girl to her death. The mutated man eventually brings the victim closer to finish the kill, but is only shot by Sarah in the last moment, which causes him tremendous pain in the process and forcing him to transform even more. The mutant becomes consumed by rage and leaps in furiously to attack, but is quickly stopped by Maki, who refuses to let him kill any more people. The two eventually begins to transform as they emit tremendous amounts of light, while causing them both to grow rapidly in size and turning into their true forms. Ultraman quickly manages to take the advantage while striking the enemy continuously before kicking the giant kaiju onto the walls. However, the monster retaliates immediately by stunning the silver giant with a deafening roar and causing the entire place to begin collapsing. Very soon, the creature begins transforming once again as it lures all the rats in the area onto its body and absorbing their genetic materials at the same time. The numerous vermins eventually cause the monster to mutate rapidly as it grows even larger in size and causing a huge explosion while transforming into its horrific new form. The massive kaiju quickly manages to break out from underground as it rises up onto the city streets and completely towering over everything nearby. The people sees this and begins running desperately for their lives, while the monster starts moving towards the humans and crushing everything in its way. Very soon, the kaiju begins charging up its energy and shooting laser beams towards the buildings, while causing huge explosions as a result, and covering the city with nothing but flames. While the creature continues terrorizing the people, Ultraman manages to escape from inside the ground as he slowly lowers his friend onto the streets and saving her life once again. However, Ultraman realizes that the battle is not over yet, as a mother rushes desperately towards her daughter to try and save the girl's life, while the building on top of them is crashing down from the explosions. The silver giant sees this and rushes towards the people in blinding speed while growing even larger in size as he manages to stop the falling structures by holding the building with his gigantic body. The people sees this and begins running away immediately, but suddenly a huge explosion erupts behind the massive humanoid as the kaiju ambushes Ultraman from behind. Fortunately, the silver giant is completely unfazed by the energy beam as he charges furiously towards the monster to battle the creature to the death. The massive humanoid eventually gains the advantage advantage while pushing the giant kaiju backwards, but the enemy quickly retaliates as well by striking Ultraman continuously on the head and shooting a powerful blast that knocks the silver giant flying across the field. Surprisingly, the main character manages to get up from the ground to fight once again, but the monster continues shooting its blast, which forces the silver giant to dodge the attacks by escaping into the air. The monster sees that the opponent is flying away and quickly begins using its powers to command all the crows in the city while forcing the creatures to fly towards its massive body. Very soon, the birds begin to be absorbed by the giant kaiju, which allows the monster to grow gigantic wings from its back and launching towards the sky at the same time. Ultraman sees this and quickly starts fighting back as he clashes furiously with the enemy in the sky while they both start firing laser beams towards each other. However, the two seems to be evenly matched as they are unable to land a direct hit towards each other while rushing through the sky in terrific speed. Surprisingly, Ultraman eventually manages to turn the tide as he starts chasing the giant creature from behind and forcing the monster to retreat into the clouds. The kaiju quickly returns back towards the city and begins shooting numerous beams towards the buildings and causing tremendous damage as a result. Before the monster can kill any more people, Ultraman quickly charges forwards and blocks off the attacks immediately, but also damaging himself at the same time. Very soon, the kaiju flies towards the silver giant to continue the fight, but Ultraman is quickly losing his power while getting hit by the enemy continuously, which sends him flying backwards in pain. Realizing that he's losing the fight, Ultraman apologizes to Maki for borrowing his body and causing the human to die as well, but the man refuses to perish so quickly as he still needs to protect his family despite the overwhelming odds against him. The main character eventually manages to gather all his strength and breaks out from the explosions while charging directly towards the enemy and striking the kaiju continuously. However, the monster quickly retaliates by grabbing onto Ultraman while trying to absorb all his powers in the process. Surprisingly, a fighter jet charges forwards and strikes the monster with numerous missiles while dodging the creature's attacks at the same time. It turns out that Kirishima has come to rescue his friend once again as he bombards the monster from the back and forcing the kaiju to release the silver giant in the process. Ultraman quickly takes the chance by charging up his powers while shooting energy blades towards the enemy and causing the massive creature to fall from the sky and crashing back onto the city. However, the monster eventually manages to recover while Ultraman lands right in front of the enemy and begins conjuring all his powers onto his arms. The massive humanoid quickly transforms the energy into lightning while shooting a powerful beam directly onto the kaiju's chest and causing the monster to scream in agony. The silver giant eventually manages to push the enemy backwards, which turns the horrific monster into nothing but dust as it vanishes alongside the winds. Very soon, the massive humanoid begins glowing as well and quickly reverting back from his gigantic form while slowly dropping down onto the ground. The shining lights eventually turns into the main character as he lies unconsciously on the ground and starts having another vision just like before. The man quickly begins seeing the silver giant once again, while Ultraman thanks Maki for helping him destroy the evil monster before separating himself from the main character as well. Sometimes later, the citizens of Japan begins rebuilding their city as they thank the massive giant for saving their lives. It's quickly revealed that Maki has also survived the incident, which allows the man to spend his time with his family as he promises to always protect the people that he loves. So what do you guys think about this movie? Let me know in the comments below, and if you like my videos, please press like and subscribe for more. I'll see you guys next time.